The critic in me has been very active lately, so I've decided to review another show that I have been watching on VH1, and it's called Football Wives. For anybody who has not seen any of the episodes, go ahead and click out this video because you won't know what I'm talking about and you'll be very, very bored. But for those of you who have been watching, here's my opinion. Let me start by saying that I'm all about supporting sisters, aka black women. Anybody who knows me or who has read any of my blogs know that I am all for uplifting sisters. So even though I'm not a real big fan of television and I don't like to encourage people to watch, I have watched all the episodes of the Football Wives so far. I don't understand why the concept of the housewife is like all over cable television now. There was the Real Housewives, Desperate Housewives, Basketball Wives, and now we have Football Wives. For all of the housewife shows that I've seen, the premise is pretty much the same. You have a bunch of upscale, or want to be upscale, pretentious women with too much free time in my opinion. Many of them are suffering from delusions of grandeur, and from what I've read on some of the blogs and in some of the videos, many of these women don't have as much money as they would like for viewers to believe, and I've even read that a couple of them are living in houses that are owned by some of these networks. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm inclined to believe it. Anywho, of the Football Wives cast, Chanita Foster is her name. She's going to be the standout character, but to me, she's going to be the standout character for all the wrong reasons. Chanita is like the Nene, and I think everybody knows who Nene is. She's from the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and Chanita is going to be like the Nene of Football Wives. She's too loud, she's too rude, she's too uncouth, for my taste anyway. She's the kind of sister that I would see on the street and I would speak to and I would keep going. She'd never have my address, she'd never have my telephone number, and I would never hang out with her. I would only love her from a distance because she acts so classless. Amanda is Caucasian, which doesn't matter. She's married to a Dallas Cowboys player. He is African American, and she's like assumed the role of the holy roller on this show. Now, I'm all about faith and God and prayer and all this kind of stuff, but I'm also about being sincere, and for some reason, I just think she's faking it. I'm not sold on her sincerity. If I've pegged her wrong, then I do apologize, but time will tell. Now, the two to me who are worth watching and who are very interesting are Pilar Sanders. She's the wife of Deion Sanders. She is absolutely gorgeous. She has beautiful skin. She dresses well. She has a nice figure. She's articulate. She's obviously intelligent, very talented. She's just a well-rounded sister who makes all sisters look good. The only thing I don't like about Pilar is that she has a weave. It's obvious a weave. It looks like a weave. It looks unnatural. It's too long, but you know what? It's her hair. She can do it like she wants. I just thought it would do her well if she got a more realistic looking weave, but it's up to her. My favorite character is Don Neufield. Now, Don is married to an ex-NFL player who happens to be white. He is so fine, and Don is a pretty black queen. She's very pretty. Her storyline to me is the most interesting because she's open and she's honest about her circumstances. Don has a beautiful son and he happens to be autistic, and she doesn't have any reservations when it comes to talking about her family, her problems, and her family's financial woes, which I thought was just really, really sad. Her husband is a veteran NFL player, and on one of the episodes, they were talking about putting their house on the market because they're almost broke, which was surprising to me. I can tell when I'm looking at her and listening to her and watching the show that her storyline is not scripted. Her footage isn't scripted. I oftentimes, when I'm looking at and listening to the other women, I'm like, okay, well, you're playing it up for the cameras. You know, you have camera balls. But I've never, ever doubted Dawn's authenticity. I really like her storyline, and that's one of the reasons I've been tuning into the show and I've continued to watch. Now, there are about 4 other ladies, but their stories and their characters, and I feel comfortable calling them that because I know a lot of these reality television shows are scripted, but the other 4 ladies, their like supporting cast members, and their storylines have not been as developed, so I won't talk about them. You'll have to tune into the show and see later on if anything interesting goes on with them, but so far they're just supporting cast members. One thing that I did want to touch upon, and I'm not trying to be a hater, but I wanted to touch upon this because I wonder why it is that every woman who seems to be married to or dating a ball player, why do they try to pass themselves off as fashion designers? There are 3 so-called fashion designers on this particular show. And I think Cherie and Lisa of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, they were both married to ball players as well. They too claim to be fashion designers. Even when these women obviously have like no knowledge of textiles, when they don't have any knowledge of fabrics, when they have not gone to design school, and they don't know how to sew, they don't know how to sketch, they don't know how to do anything with regards to making clothing, they still refer to themselves as designers. And to me, that's just downright silly. The future is going to reveal if they have any talent, but it's like, is that the thing to do now? If you're dating or married to a ball player, do you try to sell fashion or develop a fashion line even when you obviously have no fashion sense? And you can look at some of these women and tell that they have little to no fashion sense. So how they're going to be able to come up with clothing lines that are marketable is just beyond me. I'm not addicted to the show, and I'm not going to encourage anybody to watch, but if you are going to tune in, just be prepared to see like a lot of silly infighting between the women, which isn't my cup of tea. I'm only going to watch every now and then to see what's going to happen with Dawn and her husband and see if they lose their house. Other than that, to me, none of the women besides, with the exception of Pilar, none of the women are really worth following.